It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're taking a look at the Beholder number 4. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. Today, from July of 1979, this is the Beholder number 4. Hope you enjoy the video. We continue our series where we're looking at a fanzine called The Beholder. This is from the UK. It's the product of Guy Duke and Mike Stoner. This is a heavy stock cover. It's a sort of bright canary yellow, folded in half, stapled on the side. This one is fantastic right from the start, so let's take a quick look at the cover. And this is a thought eater, one of the, at least in my campaign, monsters from the Monster Manual that hardly ever got used. We'll blow this up and take a closer look. I really like what the guy is doing, where he takes monsters from the Monster Manual and just basically draws his own version of it. Really, really cool. I love this little guy. He's like a, skeletal platypus on some type of a acid trip, I think. Anyway, just fantastic art. So let's take a look at the inside, which is just as good as the cover. We've got our editorial, an article on wishes, magical weapons, the competition chronicles, which is somebody writing their narrative description of their party going through the competition dungeon from an earlier issue of the Beholder. Monster summoning, new monsters. We've got several of those. An adventure called the Mines of Mentorr. Some article talking about tricks and traps, dangerous digressions, which are few example traps for your dungeon, and then thoughts on ideas, which is a commentary on sort of playing the game. And I always like those kind of articles. In terms of contributors, not much. Guy and Mike Stoner continue to do the majority of the work here. Martin Stollery has a couple of contributions. I think he's got the Competition Chronicles summary, and he's got the new adventure. And then Andrew Whitcombe has a contribution as well. We'll cover that when we get there. Here's the cover, and remember, the only thing that's different about these when they did reprints is that sometimes the color of the cover changes, and then how many pence the cost was changes. So this would be a first original printing at 40 pence. Then the first one I have is a second printing or first reprint at 45. There's a 50. I don't have that, or the 55. I do have a 60. And you notice, maybe you can tell a little better here, it's really more of an orange color here at 60 pence, but at least the first and the original and the first reprint are both yellow, although the coloration's a little bit different there. Editorial, typical stuff here, talking about how to get in contact with them, how to make sure your subscription's up to date, and encouraging you to continue to send in contributions. And they also say they're considering branching out away from the zine, and although this is going to continue, they have an idea to produce a mini monster manual, which would be similar to the Beholder, but just monsters, right? They're really into that. They've announced a couple of times they've got a whole monster issue that's going to be coming up here in a few issues as well, trying to get more people to send in their new monsters. It's going to be interesting to see that, because they put so many monsters in every issue of the zine that you'd think they'd be running out, but apparently they're not, because they're going to do that. Okay, here's an article by Mike talking about a really fundamental issue that every DM has to deal with at some point, which is how do you utilize wishes in your campaign? It's obviously something that's super powerful and has the ability to completely unbalance a campaign if you don't control it properly. On the other hand, if you're going to allow wishes to exist, then you've got to figure out some way to sort of judge that, right? So he also, of course, says you've got to make sure that the way you receive the item that's going to grant the wish, the challenge or the danger of that should be commensurate with the power of the item you're going to get. And let's remember, if it's an intelligent opponent who has it, they'd probably use it rather than let you kill them, right? And so think about that. Think about that as well. He says, in his campaign, one of the things he likes to do is point out that wishes have to be sort of granted by somebody. In his case, it's deities. And so there's always the possibility that the deities don't sort of look favorably on the wish that you've asked for. It's kind of a cop-out, but it's something you can do if you feel like it's going to get out of hand. And of course, you can be sort of the twisted wish granter, which is always trying to figure out a way to grant the wish in a way that has negative unintended consequences for the party. A couple of things that he points out. One is some wishes are actually good things, like a demi-human removing the level cap on their character, right? Which is something a lot of people probably are glad to do anyway. So he said that's an easy wish to say yes to. It doesn't really unbalance the campaign horribly. The other thing he says is trying to compare the thing they're accomplishing with the wish to the level of a spell to figure out whether or not, it's something that would be realistic, right? So if it's a wish spell and the effect is something that you could accomplish through another either clerical spell or druid spell or, magic user illusionist spell, then that's probably something that seems pretty fair in the game. If it's something there's no way to do, or you can only do through a combination of multiple 9th level spells, then maybe you figure out a way to tweak that or limit that. Or just tell the character that, basically the deities don't seem inclined to grant your wish today. So that you don't make it omnipotent. You'd have to tell your character ahead of time, hey, this is how wishes work in my campaign. I think that's an important point. The next article by Mike, I think everything that's not labeled is by Mike, except for Dungeons, which are also by, usually by Gary, although this time we've got an outside contributor. One of the things he talks about is, when the player's handbook comes out, you get all these different types of weapons, which was really cool and people really liked them, but also people took proficiency in these different type of weapons. And so what Mike has done is come up with a series of tables so that whatever type of magic item you find, there's always a chance you're going to find a different type of weapon. In other words, all types of weapons that exist can also come in a magical or enchanted variety. There's just a percentage chance, is it a sword, is it an axe, a spear, something, as he calls it, weird, like a polearm, bow staff, quarterstaff, whatever it might be that's in there. So everything has a chance to be, end up in the enchanted magic item list. So he's just got a number of tables you use to figure out what type of weapon it is. If you want alignment, he's got a chart for alignment, types of missile weapons, etc. That's basically what he's got. And then he has a few special items here stuck at the end. And I'll talk a little about those. Flaming arrows, which are arrows that fire and then begin to burn in flight. They'll do an automatic D4 of damage, flame damage, and cause flammable material to catch fire. The Eternal Quarrel, fired from a crossbow, it goes in a straight line until it hits. So basically doesn't lose momentum, doesn't have a negative for distance, and has basically infinite range. Although I don't know what you would do if you said, I'm going to fire at something a mile away. I don't think you'd let them just roll normal to hit. The Lodestone, which is a normal sling stone, but very magnetic, and so it's going to have a +5 to hit against an opponent in metal armor, like chainmail, plate mail, etc. The Pirate's Cutlass is a normal +1 scimitar, but it's chaotic evil, +2 to hit against creatures of good alignment, and for whatever reason, +3 to hit against sea monsters of any type, and can detect hidden treasure within a 25-foot radius, so no worry about losing the pirate's treasure. The Wizard's Dagger, which is usable by a magic user and acts as a Rari's mnemonic enhancer spell at all times. And the Illusionist's Quarterstaff is a +1 quarterstaff. And when an illusionist has it, he can make things appear in a variety of forms. So example, he can make it have the appearance of a sword, and basically that illusion allows him to attack as if he had a sword or a spear. In other words, the illusion of it will do the additional damage beyond what a quarterstaff would do. Right, and so I think it's a very clever way to get around the weapon limitation, although I don't know why an illusionist is in melee combat anyway. He's going to get herself killed. The Mace of Undead Reversal, a powerful holy relic. It's neutral good, only functions in the hands of a neutral good cleric. If you're not good, it shocks you when you touch it for 2d12 damage. But on command, it puts an aura of light equal to full daylight in a 30-foot radius around the mace. Any undead creature coming in there suffers an attack versus the undead table as if a 5th level cleric was trying to turn it, and if it does hit an undead creature, it causes it to return to what they call their larval form, but basically instantly doesn't ultimately destroy it, but takes it completely out of the combat, right? And then the larva can be killed, in which case it is destroyed forever. And finally, the Paladin's Lance is a +5 lance, +5 to hit damage, basically like a holy weapon. It gives the Paladin, and if he's on his horse complete magic resistance. It does double normal damage against anyone who is not a good alignment, and if he's on horseback when he hits you with it, you are automatically knocked off your horse if you're on one. So some cool magical weapons in addition to his charts. Then we have the Competition Chronicles. This is Martin Stollery's account of his party going through. Well, it's a pre-gen party. The Pyrrhus complex from the Beholder #1. He goes through it, as you can see here, pretty long period of time. And in this version, they meet this elf along the way, and he joins their party. But it turns out he is using ESP. He understands the party has whispered to itself that they might get rid of him at some point. And so in the end, it's various people get killed as they go through. It's down to one guy left in this elf. The other guy gets paralyzed, and so the elf just basically kills him, takes his treasure, and leaves the dungeon. So, inauspicious, but fun read. They got stuck several of the traps and sort of things that were in the dungeon, sort of stumped those guys. Then we have monster summoning. As far as I can tell, it looks like Mike did all these because he doesn't give anybody else any credit for him. The first one is the Were Snake. It looks a little bit like half snake, half man. And I don't know what's going on with that face he's drawn there. It looks like a guy's got a hair and a beard, but fangs. So I'm not sure what he's supposed to look like. But in any event, he's a type of lycanthropy, and but he looks like a snake man. The Quaggle looks like a roper, but is not. And they say you'll notice that because if you really understood your monsters, he only has 4 tentacles, not 6. This is a peaceful and harmless creature, but it looks like a roper, and so it often ends up being attacked. Anything that touches it will be anything that touches any of the tentacles is randomly teleported 10 to 40 feet away. Roll on the compass for direction, which would include, like, if you attack it with a weapon, if he hits the tentacle, poof, there it goes. I guess it can tell anything that touches it anywhere. So the attack would cause the weapons to teleport away out of your hand. And of course, if he hits you with with his tentacle, that would count as well, and you'd also be teleported away. Then we have the Dralt, which is pretty cool looking. Now they call them a disgusting subterranean life form that looks like an intellect devourer, but I think it just looks like a fun little black ball of fur. Chance to hide in shadows because he's basically dark. If you get hit, you save, or you could be charmed. And then he'll make you attack your. He can make you attack your friends, but he can't make you do something that would cause you to get, basically get killed or be at extreme risk of dying. They can float around. They don't like the light, and so they'll try and get away from that. And they can cast darkness around themselves to protect themselves from the light. So that's the Dralt. Looks like a cute little ball of fur, but apparently not so fun. Then we have the Leech Plant. These little guys are down around ankle to knee level. They look kind of harmless, it says, although most parties are wary of any plants. They surprise on a 1 to 4, and they can bite you for 1 to 6 points of damage, but if they hit you, they lock on and they start to suck your blood. And if they can, as they drain your blood, they gain extra hit points from you for every point that they drain. And you'll either have to kill the plant, or you have to pull yourself away by making a strength check at a -4. And so, again, if you have, if there's nothing they could make a ruling, maybe if you have metal armor or whatever, you have to decide as a DM whether they could bite through the boots or whatever it might be, I guess, first. Then we've got this dinosaur-looking creature, or at least fossil times-looking creature. This is the trilobites. These were sea creatures, right? But these are giant versions, 5 feet long. They can live outside the water. They can swim, and they can go through they have all these little legs they can move around on. And they'll hit you with their tentacles in the front. They can do a little bit of damage, D6. But the other thing is they can sort of curl up and smack you with the tail in the back. It does D4, and it also has poison. And finally, the thing it can do is get all its little legs moving and charge and sort of basically ram you. And then that only allows them to attack versus armor class 10. You do get your dexterity bonus, but you don't get your armor bonus. And if the successful attack will do some damage and knock you to the ground so he can get away. The next monster is called the Void. The Void has no picture because it's a void. If they hit you, you disappear and you go inside the void to some sort of pocket plane of existence. And then an exact copy of you will appear in there, and you have to fight. And the winner gets then spat out of the void. So that could be you, or that could be essentially your doppelganger that comes back out, and the party will not know which it is. And if more than one person gets hit, you don't get together. You each get your own little pocket part of the void to go live in. All right. Then we have the Vart, blind bat-like flying rodents that travel in pack. They do 1d10 on a bite and a 15% chance of causing you rabies with their super sharp teeth, and a 25% chance that they get a critical hit if they attack somebody in a spot that is unarmored. So that is it. Just fearsome due to their overwhelming numbers. And finally, we have, I think it's called the Bonwhack. Virtually blind ball of fur with a single springy leg and 2 large pincers at the end of their stalk-like arms. They bounce around, click their pincers together, and search for food. They often will attack people that are sort of stronger than them or outnumber them because they're basically blind. They have 48 hit dice, so they can take pretty good hits, although they only have an armor class of 6. So that one's a little gonzo, but I don't know why I like that one less than I did the other ball of fur. But anyway, there we go. And again, at the end they solicit, please send in your monsters. All right, so then we have the Mines of Mentorr. And this is a competition dungeon, so he gives you pre-gen characters to pick from. 4 to 5 of them, he said, would be good. Now, he says you could let the players choose. You remember when Guy does his dungeons, he typically had told the DM to pick. Again, I think it's okay for a one-shot to let someone just say, hey, tonight you're just going to pick a random character. It creates a different dynamic, right? You're not nearly as attached. You don't really care about dying as much. But to me, it's a little weird to have the DM go in and pick, because are you really running this multiple times with different players for some competition? I don't think so. So maybe this is more what we would consider a one-shot, except for you get pre-gen characters instead of getting to roll your own characters up. I don't know. So here's the backstory. Eons ago, beyond the memory of the oldest adventurers, a great dwarven king named Mentorr chose some dwarven tin mines to have himself and his royal descendants entombed. To avoid suspicion and knowledge of the situation, the mining continued, so it looked more like a mining operation than tombs, right? But centuries later, a crazed but brilliant alchemist named Farjet and his mercenary band of gnolls, bugbears, and degenerated humans have raided the mines and killed all the dwarves that remained. They've extended the mines, and Farjet was able to find peace and quiet to carry out his experiments, foremost of which was trying to brew something he called the elixir of life. A rumor has spread years later that he had succeeded. It is now 258 years since he was supposed to have discovered this elixir of life. And people of both law and chaos think that he needs to be killed and this elixir destroyed, because if either side got a hold of it, it would be unfair. So they hired you to go in and clean out the dungeon / the mines. And so here's our map. It's sort of turned sideways. I like it quite a bit. You come in here at the top, M1, which is in the sort of northwest corner, and you've got the original mines. If you can find them, you can get into the tombs, and then you can get into, and that's all done by dwarves, and so it's very well, nice straight edged. And then there are these rough hewn sections that Farjet has done, and you can go in there and sort of look around, and then there's a little section up to the northeast that is nice smooth stuff as well. It's pretty simple. It's definitely, you're going to get done with this in an evening, even though there might be, 4 or 5 hour gaming session. There's some combat, unless your characters get really bogged down and stuck somewhere and just sit and spin their wheels and you can't figure out how to get them moving along. You should definitely be able to get through this in one evening. I think that's the general concept they go with these competition dungeons, is it should be one sitting. But I thought it was pretty well done in terms of, the things you encounter all sort of make sense. It holds together pretty well in my view. And, I think it would be, again, a lot of fun. It's not the greatest dungeon I've ever seen, but it's definitely pretty solid effort, especially for someone who, I don't know who this guy is, but this is his first thing he's turned in anywhere. So pretty good stuff. Okay, we have an article talking about tricks and traps. And again, I think this is Mike saying, he really admires someone who does a good job of thinking out good tricks and traps to put into their into the dungeon, because it's something that causes the players, right, to have to think and be clever, and they can't just defeat it with brute force. Again, he says one of the key things he thinks in designing this is like just making a trap that kills the players is not fun. As he calls it, the bang you're dead trap. That's for lazy DMs or DMs on a power trip, and nobody really is going to have any fun with that. So they should be able to survive. There should be some warning or some ability for a cautious or clever or thoughtful party to avoid or at least minimize the impact. And if they're, so either it's going to do a lot of damage because you've ignored clear warnings, and so you knew it was dangerous and you went ahead anyway, and so sort of that's your fault. Or you've gone ahead and, like I said, you've gone ahead in spite of warnings, or it's something that should be debilitating or damaging or cause greater challenge to the party without making them actually going to, absolutely die. Whether that's instant death or just make it so that the party's so weakened that there's no way they can survive. He also says it's important, he thinks, that you don't base your dungeon or your traps based on your knowledge of who the characters are and the characters' strengths and weaknesses. He said that's not fair because the monsters or whoever built these traps wouldn't know that. He said, on the other hand, intelligent monsters would design traps that maximize or took advantage of their strengths and protect against their weaknesses. And so he gives this odd example of an ogre magi who likes to cast Cone of Cold, that maybe the approach to his room is a cone-shaped hallway, so that knowing that when he has alerted the party's coming, as they come down the hallway, he will cast that spell, which will completely fill the hallway, making it impossible for the party to evade. A pretty devastating spell, right? So he said that would be perfectly appropriate, because that, again, is the intelligent monster building a trap or defense that is based on its knowledge of its own strengths and weaknesses. So I think that's absolutely true. And I've got a dungeon I designed somewhere way back in the day based on, I think I'd gotten that idea from Dragon Magazine, on these kobolds, right? So they're fairly weak, but with lots of time and some intelligent guidance, had designed all kinds of traps, defenses really, to use against the party. And so that was going to be the challenge of going through there, is how these guys who don't have a lot of hit points but are basically prepared to defend themselves against assault are going to do that, and to much greater effect than maybe you're used to. Okay. He also talks about, don't forget, monsters have any kind of ESP or clairvoyance. They're going to use those kind of things to be forewarned about somebody. And the final thing he wants to talk about are the I think it's more of a trick than a trap, but the thing that has some sort of writing that the characters have to sort of figure out, decipher, puzzle. They got to figure, piece together to figure out what either the clue or the warning or whatever it is would be. And he says he thinks those are a lot of fun, but again, you got to know your players. Both, is that something that they enjoy or they get bogged down in? Because nobody wants to sit there for an hour trying to figure out a puzzle while you sit there twiddling your thumbs waiting for them to figure it out. So I think that's general advice, right, with traps and tricks. Is you gotta be thoughtful, because sometimes the players can be unexpectedly stuck on stuff you didn't think they would be. Here we have 4 examples we'll look at. The first one is the Magic Mouth Party Killer Trap. It's you come in here on the left into this room. The floor is completely black. You see some blood. The walls and ceiling are black in this large 100-foot square room. And you see these 3-foot tall stone statues of different types of demons. And then opposite the doorway is the platform with an unlit candle, and above that a dragon's head that sticks out from the wall. That has a magic mouth spell on it. If the candle is lit, then the mouth will begin to randomly say the names of different demon princes, and you keep rolling a 5% chance that they will hear and come to investigate. So that's basically it. He doesn't really say anything about the statues coming to life, and so that's an odd thing. I would have thought that would have been something that gets tricked. But there we go. The next one is called the Orc Fire Trap, and you come along the passageway. You'll see 2 orcs at the corner where it's marked A at the bottom side. They will run to the north to get away. They know about the pit in B, so they'll go across. There's a plank across it. They'll run across and pull the plank. And then if you come around the corner, you may fall into the pit, which has a bunch of oil in the bottom. And then they would, of course, throw torches or shoot arrows or something on fire and try and light you up and burn you to death. So that's perfectly fun. But that's a good, that's a smart defense that they would legitimately have there, right? The next one is really odd. You're looking at it from the side. There's a pit. There's a chance that you land on this board that's sticking out. If not, you fall and there are spikes and you get impaled. If you land on the plank, or you get a hold of the plank, then it happens that there's these counterbalancing rocks on the far side, right, labeled E. But your weight's going to be enough, plus that big rock, that it's going to tip. And so once that happens, the stones that are there will start to roll, and then you'll tip and you'll get dropped down into the spikes. And then a few seconds later, all these big rocks will roll down and smash you from above. So you get double whammy. The next one is called the Round and Round. It's just basically a pit that has a teleport gate at the bottom. And so when you hit the bottom, somehow they let you take the damage, but then you teleport. And you teleport 10 feet above the pit. So first you fall 10 feet. And then now you fall from a point that's 10 feet above, so you fall 20 feet. And you'll just keep falling and taking damage until this time now 20 feet, 2d6, right? Until someone else from the party manages to get a hold of you and figure out a creative way to stop. I like that part of it. It's, kind of the comic relief of the guy just keeps falling and getting smashed. And it's something the party just has to react to. Let them come up with a creative, clever way to get something across there for this person to stop falling and getting smashed to death. So I thought that's probably my favorite one of the list. And now we have the Burning Room Trap, which you come in and basically you just describe to them in the darkness. It looks like the floor is wet, the walls are wet. It turns out they're all covered in oil that just continually is, for whatever, is dripping down. And all these little, there's tapestries on the walls, and then you have these little heads mounted at the C's that have magic mouths on them. If you get within 10 feet of it, the magic mouth will operate and they will laugh. And then there's a candle in their mouth that's lit, and when they laugh, the candle will fall out and hit the floor and light it up, and then everybody's consumed by oil. So that's the concept. Finally, we have this one called Thoughts on Ideas. And what he basically says is, look, your players are creative people for the most part. And at some point, they're going to come up with a really creative idea that could feel a little game unbalancing, whether that's a new item or spell that a Magic user creates, or something they figure out how to use or how to use in combination that has an unexpectedly effective impact, whether that makes the players more powerful or more invulnerable, or makes it easier for them to kill certain types of monsters, or maybe it's just a really good strategy they can use to great effect. And he says, you really have to think about what to do with a great idea, because you can't just cancel it, or your players are going to become really resentful that they've been really, really clever, which is something that the game really encourages them to do. And now you just basically come up with some almost metagaming thing from your side to get rid of it, right? And yeah, maybe the item is powerful and people know about it and try and steal it. That seems legit to me. But to just either A, say, you know what, I'm just not letting that work anymore, or B, coming up with some bizarre way that's sort of very obviously just refusing to let it work, is something you should really try not to do. Just obviously you can't have your game become broken. You don't want everybody else, it doesn't want to become boring, and you don't want everybody else to feel like, oh, well, these two guys, just get to dominate because they've got this little trick that they do. But at the same time, you don't want to dissuade your characters from being creative, right? And again, one of the easiest things to do is remember that when players become powerful, they attract attention in the community or in the kingdom, and that can tend to have people either trying to steal your stuff or kill you, because then, you sort of like the Wild West thing, right? If I can defeat the famous guy, then I become famous. So in any event, he says, for the most part, you should encourage those ideas and figure out ways to fairly balance the game out without taking them away entirely. That's kind of his general idea. And of course, if it's not unbalancing the game, then just let them have the special thing they came up with, and probably keep it to that player. Don't let them, next campaign with brand new players, just say, oh, I'm going to do that same idea over again. Let it stay that person's or that character's unique thing that they came up with, right? I think that's a fair thing to say to the player. But all in all, he says, I think it is a good, thoughtful article for something that DMs are likely to face. And I thought, he had a good way of thinking his way through that. Here's our back cover. The same thing that we normally see: advertisement information, copyright, subscription, contact information, and encouraging you to contribute. That's our look at the Beholder number 4 from the summer of 1979. Hope you all are enjoying the video series. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that you're subscribed. If you have some friends who might be interested, please send them our way, and hopefully they will become subscribers as well. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.